Welcome back to the show. Lots going on in the world. Lots going on in crypto. Russia, Ukraine, sanctions, SWIFT, RippleNet. We're going to talk about it. How about a new Bretton Woods moment from the IMF? Does that mean a new Bretton Woods moment comes with a new system? We're going to talk about that too. A reminder from Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse on exactly what the goal is there. And XRP charts, let's take a look at the damage and see what's going on here with the price and support and resistance. Where are we going from here? Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackUpBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. $1.633 trillion market cap, ladies and gentlemen. We're off by 6.48% collectively here this morning. Welcome back to the show. It is February 24, 2022. Russia has invaded Ukraine. We're going to talk about how the implications of that national or international event is affecting our markets, as well as other markets, and what we may be thinking about as investors in this crypto space, in XRP, in other things. Let's get started. Right now, Bitcoin is 35,900 plus, Ethereum 2,400 plus, XRP 65 cents. Let's look at the range of price really quickly here. 62 cents on the bottom, 73 cents on the top. I want you to stay with me as we move through this information today. It's a lot to go over. Some you may have seen, some I'm sure that you haven't. So make sure you stay with us here. Lots of things happening internationally that should have us all thinking. And this is the first one here. Formerly Cryptopolis, this is Dave Valliers right here, who reminds us the narrative, it's a store of value, and inflation hedge was never true, but so many people believed it. Sad. This is the Bitcoin chart, tanking miserably right here. I know I have said this on the channel. We've discussed it for a long time. Proof of work is a problem. The scalability is an issue. If you haven't seen the video from this morning, the European Parliament is considering banning Bitcoin proof of work and other proof of work coins because of those issues. And at this point, they have the momentum. Now, it doesn't mean it'll get passed, but the momentum to get it done is with them in European Parliament right now for the EU. So we will keep an eye on it. But one thing I always say, and I've talked about it here, if it's a distraction for gold, if it's a distraction from the real protocols that will ultimately be used, as I believe XRP and XLM will. None of what I say is financial advice, but it's just my digital perspectives. Let's go ahead and keep moving quickly through this. Crypto is similar to higher risk equities and actual correlation and direction in price movements that reached an all-time high yesterday, says the gentleman in this clip here. What we saw last night, this drop in cryptocurrency value, is very much tied into risk-off behavior that's happening. So people moving out of this volatile asset class, including Bitcoin specifically being discussed here, because of the current events that are taking place internationally. Obviously, we're talking about Russia and Ukraine here, right? So I'm not going to play the clip for you, but it's essentially what goes on and paraphrases that, so you don't have to see it. But let's keep moving, because we also had an event up in Canada that was really showing to us that the Emergency Act that was instituted in Canada is not only going after single mothers and other people who were donating to the protest of the trucker convoy up there, regardless of what it's about, people not being able to exercise their freedom to protest with their own money to do so. Whether it's in Canada, here in the States, or some other place, and I understand that there's some kind of a convoy going on, getting ready to go to D.C. in that area, which is about 45 minutes from my house. So I'll try to keep you up to date if that actually happens. But, looking at all of this, I feel like it's a stark reminder that no matter where you live in the world, these things can happen to you. They can happen to you. Emergency acts by government and trying to seize your money. I mean, you think it's unheard of, but that's what history books are for, because it is not unheard of. Today is a good reminder, says digital asset investor. It's a good reminder for a little gold. in your portfolio. God's money. Yeah, that's what we call it around here when I was a kid. I know you could hear it. That's God's money is the way they say it. And that is for sure. You know, I have often talked about the idea and understanding that as I get my crypto gains and my gains in other areas of investment, I want to take those gains and those earnings and put them somewhere safe. For me, it is real estate. It is other areas like metals, like gold, right? And you know, it's like, that's why I told you guys the other day about this. This is what I love about this. This is Glint Pay. And I'll have a link in the description so you can check them out. I'm not getting a thing from them at the moment. But what I can tell you is this. This is the gold alternative to the banking system. You can have a debit card, the mobile app. You can buy the dollars you want to hold in your wallet, or you can buy gold on your debit card and in your mobile app and your account. It is your gold. It is allocated to you. Now, you could choose to receive it in physical gold, but at the moment, it's really about being able to have access to gold in a time like we're witnessing right now. And I don't believe you need to be in Ukraine or Canada to understand what kind of time we're living in right now. Make sure you check out that link. I mean, this to me is something I am absolutely going to be on my phone with my bank today, finishing my setup for this account so I can fund and get some gold and I can own it. And you know what? It's a great hedge against inflation or anything else going on out here. This is a clip from what is actually taking place in Ukraine right now. Just 5 hours ago, this was shared. Seeing the jets and things fly over and do bombings, it's horrible. Never take your freedom for granted, no matter how measured you may feel it is. There's a lot of people are disgruntled about where they live and the government and all of this. And, you know, I'm pretty cantankerous when I push back on the government, no matter who's running it. But at this point, I have to be reminded how grateful I am that I can get up and say those things freely, and I can exercise my right to do what I want in my country, and I'm very proud to do so. And it can be gone in an instant. So it is a reminder, and my prayers and thoughts go out to the residents there in Ukraine. And here is what Ukraine is doing in response to this, and trust me, we're going to bring this back to XRP, RippleNet, and the Ledger in just a couple moments. Stay with me. Ukraine is obviously looking for some serious help on the financial side, and they're asking the international community to weaponize the entire financial system against Russia in the form of sanctions, which would obviously be using SWIFT system to do so. And what they're showing here is all the different things: stop buying Russian oil and gas, pension funds, right? All secondary trading, right? Central banks, state-owned private banks, sanction the ruble transactions with Western banks, withdraw Russian out of bond and equity investment indices. It says block Russia from SWIFT system for payments, disconnect Visa and MasterCard payment system. I mean, you see the list goes on and on. All of this lends itself to what we know Russia has threatened to do even last summer, which was ditch the petrodollar, ditch the dollar itself, denominated oil contracts. Because why? Because of Crimea when that happened. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to do that. But you know what? If you take action against us, which the U.S. did, and then obviously even as of recent, some are criticizing, saying those actions and sanctions using SWIFT were not strong enough, or this would have maybe never taken place. Now, that's up for debate, and that's another video, but another conversation. But the point of this here is that when they are threatened or when sanctions are brought on, this is the kind of talk Russia does. But if our American partners create this type of situation of sanctions and such they're talking about, and other choice but gradually to do that, his comment shortly after Russia announced it would completely remove its U.S. dollar assets from the National Wealth Fund. This is the kind of, posturing and stuff, political posturing they take, when they have sanctions and things like that put on them. But there's another implication that we got to pay attention to here, because we have problems right in the United States with the printing of the money, with the liquidity crisis that existed before the pandemic, right? That's right. And now inflation. and if not dealt with properly, soon to be hyperinflation, which some said, oh, will never happen. Yeah? Well, listen to what this gentleman says here about, now, obviously, Stanberry Research, this guy's a gold guy, just full disclosure. But you know what? Daniela Cambone has an incredible show and incredible people on her show. I'd love to have her on my show, actually. Let's listen to this gentleman here.
Very seldom in my career has the gold price increased at the same time that the US dollar is increasing versus other currencies, at the same time that nominal interest rates are going up. When you have those three things in common, you are usually setting the stage for a ferocious gold rally. It's said that gold goes up by elevator and down by escalator. When gold goes up, it really, really, really goes up. And in my career, what has tempered the increase in gold prices has been at least nominal interest rates. Interest rates are going up and gold is going up. And faith in the US dollar. Gold and the US dollar are rising simultaneously, which historically has been very bullish for gold.
Which also historically means it's probably pretty bad for the dollar, right? Because a lot of people have the Jim Rickards version where, you know, the dollar doesn't get stronger, right? You know, or weaker, the gold gets, you know, more expensive, right? It's all on how you look at it from a foundational level, right? That's kind of what they're seeing, what the two philosophies in the gold and the physical cash investing world is. You know, when I hear him say that, you know, I'm reminded, look, that's why I like GlintPay, because I can spend that gold. I can get that gold and it is spendable, and it's a debit card. So you can't be shut down in an Emergencies Act by the government, right? Like it was happening in Canada. That can't happen to you. You got a debit card, the money's already on it, doesn't involve the banking system, and they can kiss it, right? I like that. I'm going to be doing it. Here we see even more talk about deplatforming Russia from the SWIFT system. Feels like a real possibility. He says tomorrow, but I don't think it's tomorrow, right? And I'll tell you why. And it's not to be combative to that gentleman, but the EU says they're unlikely, as of today, to cut Russia off SWIFT for now, sources say. So obviously an invasion doesn't make them want to do it. And then we see here that whatever sanctions in the first round of tranches to SWIFT severe cuts on Russia were obviously not deep enough because they decided to invade anyway. The question asked here by Charles Gasparino is I have a lot of Wall Street execs. Why did we take off the table barring Russia and its banks and oligarchs from SWIFT? It would be draconian, disruptive, but the impact would have been swift, so to speak, as opposed to the long game sanctions that it obviously didn't deter. Well said. I think this gentleman, Stephan Hubert, says it very well right here. That would be the biggest catalyst for crypto ever, at least for efficient, fast blockchains. Exactly. So for the XRPs of the world, for the XRP, XRP Ledger and the XLM Ledger, all of these that have been working within the system to be compliant. Now, I know we have a court case to go, but I believe that is a vetting process. Now, let's get back to it here, because, the whole idea of Russia decoupling from a SWIFT system really speaks to them having their own system, which they do. And it's called the SPFS system. Now, let's take a look at this, because this is the first time we've heard about it. And I just want to make sure we're not getting crazy on time here, because there's a lot to go over still, and I want to bring it home. I hope you're staying with me here, because if you look at this, the SPF system and Russian equivalent of SWIFT was developed by Central Bank of Russia in 2014 after the United States government threatened to disconnect Russia from SWIFT system back around the Crimea time frame, 2014, 2016, if my memory serves me right. And it says here, the first transaction on the SWIFT was involving a non-bank enterprise was executed on 2017 December. As of March 2018, over 400 institutions, mostly banks, are a part of the network. But here's the problem. The problem with any SWIFT disconnection would be the absence of international connectivity. So they could have the SPFS system they have designed within Russia. But what do you do when you're trying to get outside of Russia? Right? What do you do? And then they talked about here about the plan to integrate Russia's SPFS system network with China-based cross-border interbank system known as CBIBPS. And they have done that, because remember when we reported on this? This was just December of last year, just a couple months ago. Russia and China develop their own new financial system. Period. Full stop. That's what's going on here. You can do a lot of damage between these two countries being able to obfuscate something like SWIFT's payment messaging system from sanctions point of view, especially when you know you have a huge market with the EU, and because of the EU's relationship with Russia and trade, you're not seeing them as willing to participate in the sanctions. Just look at the piece of news I shared. But what's the ultimate goal here? The ultimate goal is this. Ripple's Chris Larson, XRP can replace SWIFT. That's what we're talking about here. Brad Garlinghouse said the same thing. In fact, we're dismantling SWIFT, is what he said. If you remember, this was back in what, 2018? He says right here, this is Cryptocurrency Box. He says the chief executive, let's just start right here. He stated the technologies that the bank used today that SWIFT developed decades ago really hasn't evolved or kept up with the market. SWIFT said not that long ago that they didn't see blockchain as a solution to correspondent banking. Well, we've got over 100 of their customers saying they disagree. And now it's over at least 300 to 400 plus customers. Think of it. You don't need every customer to create a tipping point. He clarified that SWIFT-based banks are increasingly coming to Ripple Network. Furthermore, Ripple is not partnering with SWIFT as of yet, but a partnership between the two will be beneficial for the latter. He stated, what we're doing and executing on a day-by-day basis, in fact, taking over SWIFT. These are their words. And what are we watching now? The sanctions are having no effect on the actions of this country, Russia, right? So what we're in store for is really a couple fold. One, there's no effect from the sanctions that are happening. Two, we know that we have a dollar crisis problem because of the printing. What is it? I think the stat we went over the other day is that more than half of the money in circulation was printed in the last year and a half. Over half of the money in circulation is printed in the last year and a half. Some figure close to that, if my memory serves me right, and it's horrible. And that moment that the US dollar was created to be the global reserve currency was right back in 1944. Yep, just right around the World War II finale, right? Just as that's wrapping up, they have Bretton Woods, and Bretton Woods is where the US dollar is chosen over the pound to become the global reserve currency. And we hear just the other day, I covered this, where they're calling for another Bretton Woods moment, which means another global reserve currency to be put in place, or one beside it. The moment is now, says Kristalina Georgieva. We covered this April of last year. Listen to this quick clip here.
If I may. And many thanks to the audience. The Bretton Woods Committee, understandably, is very close to my heart. You support the institutions, and I have this unique privilege to have served in both of them. And it is a moment where bringing new energy into the work of the institutions is an imperative.
Now, I believe firmly that what she's referencing by bringing a new energy into these different places like Bretton Woods and the IMF is that we don't continue to kick the can down the road. Something has to be done, and that something is very drastic, which is a new Bretton Woods moment. That moment is here, she says.
Because we are globally, as a world, we are at a turning point.
We're at that turning point right now. You have to ask yourself if a conflict like Russia and Ukraine could become the catalyst for a series of events to take place where, listen, if you're hearing the IMF call for, which is Kristalina Georgieva in the top right there, calling for a new Bretton Woods moment, which she has done many times. What I understand from that is that you can't have a new global reserve currency without a new system to run it on. That's the whole problem here. SWIFT sanctions really aren't working. Well, what is built and designed to replace SWIFT? RippleNet. Don't believe it. It's still true. Remember the liquidity hub that sits on top of exchanges like Coinbase and other people and other companies? Ripple Liquidity Hub is to be the original liquidity source for all things, ultimately, end goal. Because that liquidity hub is going to service the settlement of everything, or all the money, as they say, on the XRP ledger. Why would we have any problem believing this when we know that Ripple pilots a private ledger for central banks to launch their digital programmable money on? I know I don't. Real quick before we get out of here, let's take a look at this. Dark Defender says, I'll use the same Fibonacci levels in a 4-hour chart. XRP is oversold. Second wave now hits the lowest Fibonacci level, which was 61 cents. Strong support at 57 cents. Wave 5 structure is invalidated below them. So anything below this will invalidate the structures that they have been covering. Pay very close attention to where we go from here on all fronts. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Share with somebody you know. I can't wait to see your comments and thoughts on this one. Make sure you check out all the links in the description and comment box. They're great products and special I use every day, and they are trusted, vetted links. I'll catch you on the next one.